You are listening to Belly Birth Beyond with Pelvic Floor Mama. I'm your host, Becca Boving, pelvic rehab certified coach and mom of two. Welcome to the safe space where no topics of motherhood are off limits and judgment is left at the door. Too many mamas are dismissed when they've got valid concerns. If you're sick of hearing that's normal when it feels otherwise, keep listening. Welcome back to Belly Birth Beyond. I am so excited to have our guest, Michelle, with us. I'm going to have her introduce herself. She is just such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to like marriage and partnership and all things. So I'm really excited for her to come on and share some tips. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Becca, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Purta. I'm a marriage coach. I'm a mom of three, and I've been happily married for 10 years. And I became a marriage coach because I really wanted to help people who had similar struggles as I did growing up, where I didn't have a healthy model when it came to relationships. And I was just kind of doing my best, right? Like we all are. But I found that my best wasn't quite enough when I realized many relationships later that I kept butting into the same issue every single time. Different guy, but same issue. I would get into these like arguments all the time with them. I would get passive aggressive. I would be crying so much, feeling like I wasn't understood, feeling like they didn't know how to care for me, feeling like, why can't I have those easy, fun, light relationships that other people have where they look so happy, but yet it's like we had our moments, but we had a lot of low lows. And so after I took some time and figured out, oh, shoot, I'm the common denominator, I realized that I had a lot of skills that I was missing that I needed to learn, a lot of forgiveness I needed to give to myself, and a lot of growth when it came to me personally. And throughout that journey, I was able to finally have the relationship now with my husband where we don't really argue, right? Like we disagree, but we don't argue. And every time we have conflict, we end up growing closer together, and our marriage truly does get better and better over the years, even though I've got 3 kids. And so I know how much of a transition it is once you introduce kids into the picture. And, you know, looking back, now I feel like it's truly a blessing that I started my relationship with my husband becoming a stepmom. So he already had a child in the picture. So we kind of had to do things a little more expedited in terms of figuring out how we were going to work together as partners, as co-parents, and figure things out quickly. And I was able to take that into our marriage as we grew our family because I had 2 other kids after that. And the thing that really rocked me was not ever having that newborn phase with someone, right? Because when I had my stepson come into my life, he was already almost 2. Yeah. And it's kind of like nothing that you're ever prepared for, right? They prepare you for pregnancy, as you know, and they prepare you on how to take care of the baby, but they don't prepare you on how to take care of yourself, your needs, how to communicate, how to childproof your marriage. And I had to learn the hard way, right? We, again, started fighting more after my son was born. And I just noticed I like completely lost myself. And now being on the other side of it, recognizing what needed to be different and applying that to when I had my daughter, my youngest, she's now 4, it was such a completely different experience. And now I just want to help all moms out there, all couples who have kids, to know that they don't have to choose between being a good parent or having a good marriage, but rather they can go hand in hand, and we can get to grow our marriage alongside our kids. And that conflict doesn't have to mean incessant arguing. That having kids doesn't have to mean your marriage becomes indefinitely harder and that has to go on the back burner, but that we get to still enjoy it. We still get to want to hang out with our spouse. Right. We still get to, have that romantic piece of a relationship and not just have it turn into the business of raising kids. Our marriage can wait, when really our marriage is not guaranteed, as opposed to our relationship with our kids. Like, we're always going to be the parent. but you aren't always going to be a spouse, and we have to nurture that. It's not just something that can hit pause and be like, okay, see you later in 18 years or 10 years or 8 years. It might not be the same.
Yeah, that is so true. And I feel like, especially right now, you hear all the stories or like you read, social media, and it's like, did having kids bring you and your spouse closer together, or did it make things harder? And personally, with our first, it made things so much harder. And not initially. Initially, things were good, but it was also, I mean, if you've heard my birth story, it's a very traumatic one. So that was quite an entrance into the world. But that first year after having our son was the hardest year I think we had ever went through. And we had gone through like lots of things that most couples may not necessarily have to go through at that time. So I think this is so important for moms to know, is like taking care of you together and learning how to continue to nurture that marriage and communicate. I think communication, at least for me, is so difficult. And sharing, like, I just expect, especially my husband, to know what I want and what I need. And that's not the case. They can't read our minds. They don't do hints. You got to just give it to them straight up. And that makes the biggest difference. And what are some tips then that you would give, like a mom who's expecting right now, expecting their first?
So this is like the sweet spot, right? Like, preventative work is always going to be more effective than trying to like fix something, right? Not that fixing something is impossible. It's definitely possible. I've helped my clients do that, and myself. So if you're expecting, I would say that you need to have a lot of conversations with your spouse. Doesn't have to be all in one sitting, about what life is going to look like post-kid, right? Talking about things like, okay, what do you see life looking like after our kids come? We often have this vision of what life is going to look like, but we don't share it, right?
That's true.
And so we have different ideas of how it's supposed to be, who's going to do what that child is going to be raised valuing, what experiences we're going to prioritize for them, and what life is actually going to look like, not just dreaming like, oh yeah, they're going to be like a soccer player and It's like, okay, but with that comes multiple practices a week plus games, and it's going to basically take over your life. You're not going to have dinner together as a family at home anymore. It's probably going to be on the road and, all that stuff. Plus, if you add kids, you're going to be shuffling people around, tag teaming, and, divide and conquer. Yeah. So if you're expecting, I would say have those really honest conversations about what your childhood was like, what you foresee, like you wanting your child's life to be like, your disciplinary styles, what you anticipate you're going to need postpartum, right? For me, it was like, look, the best thing you can do is make sure I have water everywhere. Like, I need several water stations everywhere in the house so that no matter where I sit and nurse, I'm good to go. I have water to drink so I can replenish and continue feeding our child. I'm going to need you to take care of our oldest kid because I'm going to be busy nursing and, doing all these things. And just like be super transparent. Hey, I might get overwhelmed or I might need sleep. And so I'm going to need you sometimes to take the kids or have you contact parents and be like, hey, can you come over so that, we can do this and that. Talk about your marriage as well, right? Not just about taking care of the kids, but yourself and your marriage. And so the first thing about childproofing your marriage truly is making sure that you're taken care of, okay? So I am coming from the belief that we need to love ourselves most in order for the rest of our family life to go well. Because what happens when we don't love ourselves most? We start to not take care of ourselves. We start to put other people before us and us last, if at all. And what happens is we start to feel the consequences of us abandoning ourselves, right? We start to get more irritable. We start to be less kind, less fun, less receptive of efforts that our spouse is making to love on us, to give us attention. So instead of us being like open arms, receiving it, being playful or, really embracing, you're just like, get away from me, stop touching me. Right. Yeah. And you're annoyed. They're cracking jokes and you're like giving them the eye. Right. And so on their end, they're like, what happened to my wife? And on your end, you're like, I'm so overwhelmed and burned out. And so both of you are not doing well in that situation. And the key to that is loving yourself most, being really honest about what are you needing, right? Obviously, you know you're going to be lacking sleep. So that's not something that you can necessarily control all the time, right? You can't just be like, let me program this baby to sleep 5-hour stretches. Like,
Right.
I wish, right? I wish, but we can't. And so we have to control what we can, and then we have to work around what we can't. So if you are hesitant about asking for support and letting people know what you need to get over yourself, because if not, you're going to deal with the consequences of feeling like I should be able to do it all. I'm the mom. I should be able to, no. Okay. Like if you think about way back, right? People raise their kids in villages. They've got so many adults to pass the baby off to, or they've just got people coming in doing things without even asking. We don't necessarily have that. And so if it's just you and your spouse and maybe occasional family help, you've got to be more verbal about needing that support, about, hey, I really need some sleep. I just can't anymore. Okay, take the baby. Or I really need a break. Okay, go for a walk, or I'll go with you and I'll push a stroller and you can walk ahead, or you can just walk beside me. Like, I got it. Okay. If your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional well-being is not where it needs to be, like whatever that baseline is, you're not going to be the mom, the wife, or feeling like yourself the way you want to be. Okay. Yeah. So let's set ourselves up for success, because that's truly step one, right? Like if you're just in shambles, nothing is going to go well.
So true. That so true on so many parts. I can just go back to my postpartum, and it's just, that is so important for moms to realize, even if it is your second or your third, and things aren't like that, all resonates so much. And communication is a huge piece of it. And that mom guilt of you matter too, and trying to overcome that, to find that time where you can take care of yourself in whatever way that looks like to you. Maybe it's just getting in the car and going through the drive-through line to get some coffee. Maybe it's, going to get your nails done for 30 minutes or something, or sitting in a quiet room with a book, or, something that makes you feel a little bit more like a human and not just this mom who's just constantly taking care of others around them. That is so important throughout the entire thing. Like my kids are 2 and 4, and there's still times where I'm like, I just need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I just need a moment.
Yeah, don't push through it. Like if you feel that urge where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to snap at my kids, or I'm going to throw something, or I feel like screaming right now, or I just need to be alone, listen to it, because that's your signal of hey, I am meeting my limit. And I know that you don't want to meet your limit. You don't want to get that. You don't want to exceed that. You don't want that part of you to come out, like that momster version of you. We all have it because we have limits, right? And we don't listen to our limits. That side of us comes out. And so then you're dealt with, do I deal with the mom guilt of taking time for myself and not being there for my kid 24/7? Or do I deal with the mom guilt of, oh my gosh, I can't believe I yelled at them, or oh my gosh, I can't believe I pick them up firmly, whatever it is, you're going to deal with some form of mom guilt. What are you willing to live with more? And what will you teach your kids with your actions? So I want you to think more future instead of in the moment, oh, it's uncomfortable that I want to take a break from my kids. I shouldn't want to take a break from my kids. I love them. I brought them into this world. I should be so overjoyed. And you're human. You don't have to like your kids 24/7. Okay? I love my kids, but I don't like them in every moment. There's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I need a break. You are testing me.
Yes.
Okay. And the more we build into our daily life, whether it's a hobby, whether it's meditating, walking, some kind of thing that really rejuvenates and refills our, self-care, the more capacity we have to handle those harder moments. Because I know the difference between when I don't get good sleep, I don't exercise, I don't give myself time to myself. I am not a good mom. I am hypercritical. I go on a roll where I can't stop myself from pointing out all the things that people are doing. That's just my sign, right? And I start doom scrolling a lot just because I'm trying to zone out and I'm not present with my family. That's me, right? But when I do take care of myself, it's oh, you're throwing a tantrum? Let me sit with you. Let me be here with you as you're navigating whatever, struggles you're going through. And then let me give you a hug when you're ready for it. That is so different than me being get over it, whatever. I mean, I don't actually say that, but I want to say that.
Yeah,
I'm dude, what is going on? Stop doing that. My head is about to explode, right?
Yeah.
We are the deciders of how much capacity and resilience we have through those unexpected, unpredictable challenges. So why would you not want to set yourself up for success, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That is so huge, especially because I can and this is just me personally, I'm that crazy one that has to move my body in some way. I have to exercise. And if I get in those, it's challenging to exercise with kids. I 1000% get that. And the moms who want to work with me, but think that they don't have time and things like that, you need me because I'm going to help you learn how to move with your children present. But it's not easy. And I'm not telling you that it's easy. There are so many different tools to use, but sometimes I will even use that as an excuse and I won't do that. And when I do that, I really find myself I'm very short. I have no patience. I'm very, my fuse just isn't there. I'm just go outside, just go outside, just go outside, just go out there and just give me 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very safe, they're fine when they're out there and I watch them, but you definitely get into that. And so just knowing knowing those signs, because I think sometimes we just think that's a part of motherhood and it's just, but when the way you put it and the way you phrase that, it's this isn't the normal. This is just what happens when we reach those points of burnout and exhaustion and we just need a moment to ourselves. And that's okay. And you might even go through phases where you do really well and then you get to a certain, especially if your cycle comes back. I really think your cycle plays a huge role in this too.
Yes.
So if you cycle track, which is total side note, that can really help you kind of tune into what your body needs to and maybe why you're a little bit more short fused or why you are feeling more emotional or whatever that may be. And it can really help you even better help yourself and your children because you can kind of adapt and make those changes, especially if you have girls and being able to do that for yourself so that way you can do it for them or just help them do that. I think that's something that we need to continue to normalize because it's just that normal of oh, you're just hormonal. You're just a girl, we need to really tune into why we're feeling those ways and what can we do to help ourselves. So, I don't have the best way to ask that. What are some of the most common things that people will come to you and need some help with?
Yes.
Whether it's before children, after children, just marriage in general, what would you say your most wanted and for what's the, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do know what you're trying to say. So I would say that's the second piece of childproofing your marriage, which is communication, right? I struggled with communication so much. I thought I was a great communicator because with what I grew up witnessing, it was anger, okay, silent treatment, right? Which is toxic. And so I was I'm not going to be like that because we need to talk things out. I remember writing letters to parents so that they could see what I wanted to say, even though they wanted to shut me out because they were overwhelmed with their own emotions. And so I thought, in contrast, that I was a great communicator, but my relationship showed me that I was not a great communicator because just because you're talking about it doesn't mean that it's going to go well, right? I had no tact. And so I really had to improve the way I communicated so that it was something that my partner would want to participate in. Because the way I communicated was very much oh, I'm so mad and I need you to know so that you can make changes, not acknowledging, oh, I played a part in this as well, whether it's not speaking up soon enough, whether it's not taking care of myself enough. And so my fuse was short to begin with, right? Yeah. or not asking for clarity when I misunderstood something, or not setting, not communicating my expectations, and then they fell short because they had no idea what it is that I wanted. And they're like, what? I didn't know. I was just doing my best, right? And so communication is the biggest piece. Couples do tend to start arguing a lot more and have trouble communicating after the kids come, because it's highlighted that they didn't have the greatest communication skills to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Because we're low on sleep, low on energy, low on patience, right? Stress is high, responsibility is high. We feel like, oh my gosh, like what is life right now?
Yeah.
Versus before, it was like you had space to think, you had time. All you were worried about was like work, your own self, and your relationship. Now it's like all of that, plus wherever you live, the responsibilities, the kids, that's a huge mental effort and physical effort. And so what forgiveness you did have before is like out the window, right? And so that's why you need to take care of yourself, because even when I teach you tools on how to communicate better, how to do it effectively, how to turn conflict into opportunities to grow your relationship, if you are not feeling your best, you're not going to remember to pull from those tools. You're going to go straight to being emotional, and you're going to stay there, and you're going to be more reactive than responsive, right? So that you need to take care of yourself before learning how to communicate well, because like what good is it if you're like not even wanting to pull from it because you just want to lash out and be angry?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I love to teach people how to use my peace method when it comes to communication, because it is a lot of effort to be a good communicator. It requires discipline. It requires intentionality. It requires a lot of awareness of yourself, of your partner, being attuned to like what's going on with them, depending on what you see and what you hear, being able to sift through what they're actually trying to say. Because a lot of times we can take things personally, and then we end up getting defensive, and you end up having a conversation where it's like two different conversations, or like random things get pulled in and you veer away from the actual problem itself.
Yep.
Right. And so if it's okay, I can walk you through what that peace method is, just to give a framework for the listeners to start improving how they communicate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So each letter stands for something, but I thought it was like kind of nice because we all want peace in our relationship, right? Like we don't want that volatility and feeling like we're on a roller coaster whenever something goes unexpected.
Yeah.
So P stands for pause. This is probably the most significant step that we can all take. Okay. Pause. For people like me, I didn't do any of this. I was like, oh, I'm so mad and they need to know because I want things to improve. But I didn't recognize that by not pausing and giving myself time, that actually helped facilitate a more productive and successful conversation. Okay, so P is for pause. Pause to settle into your emotions. If you're not feeling neutral, you are not ready to have a conversation. Okay. Pause to understand how you got here in the first place. Why are you feeling the way you're feeling? What is it that triggered this feeling? What does it remind you of? What are you needing? Like, what could have happened to have a different outcome for you? Okay. So you need to get clear on what it is that you are needing, wanting, feeling before you even go into the conversation. Because if you don't do that, that's where you get into those conversations where you say something, but you haven't fully thought it out, and you're trying to figure out yourself while trying to listen to them. And so when you do that, when they speak, you're actually formulating a response while listening to them, rather than being like, I don't need to formulate a response right now. I can just process because I have the space. But when you don't have the space to do that, because you're thinking about how you're feeling and what's going on in you as they're talking, because you're like waiting for them to tell you their side before you decide how you feel and what you want. You have no room for their side of the experience. And so then it becomes I'm in it to win it. So I'm going to react and say things to prove you wrong, or to underline and emphasize how I felt and how you betrayed me, or how you frustrated me and how you basically failed as a partner, who's going to want to participate in that conversation with you?
Nobody.
No one. Right?
Yeah.
When we do that, we are emphasizing our need to be right over the need to have a right relationship. And so we need to give ourselves pause to settle our egos, because that's what it really is. It's our pride coming in. Okay? So the more we're able to give ourselves time to process our experience and figure out like, okay, like what just happened? Okay, well, why do I think that they did this? If I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, what is a good reason that they did this? Is it that they didn't know? Is it that they were preoccupied? Is it like, what is it? Because I'm going to remember that I am married to a good person. There's a reason why I'm married to this person. They're probably not being a jerk when they did that. That might have been my initial reaction, like, what a jerk, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. That's just our immediate perception of what happened. So then we need to bring in clarity, which brings us to step 2, which is express. Once we figured out our own stuff, right? And kind of thought of, okay, what are some possibilities outside of, wow, he's an asshole? What other possibilities are there that, like, why he did the thing that he did or didn't do the thing that he did? Let's have a conversation about it. Now I've got myself figured out. I'm ready to come in this conversation, open to listening, like fully listening to what they have to say and give them a chance to kind of clarify so that I can then be like, okay, all right, I can see why that happened. I can see how that all worked out. And this was my experience of it. You're not blaming. You're just sharing. This is my experience. This is my side of things. This is why I reacted the way I did. And now I'm seeing that, you know, maybe I overreacted and I apologize or, you know, whatever, right? And that comes hand in hand with the next letter A, which is acknowledge. Acknowledge your side of things. We all co-create every experience we have with someone else. Whether you're coming in hot and you're getting into an argument and you're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have gotten so mad if you didn't say that. Well, you reacted to that, right? Yeah. You took it personally and then you did something which then sets him off to do something. It just creates this like negative ripple effect that we often feel like we have no control over, but really we do. At any point of the conversation, we have the chance and the choice to pivot. We could be like, oh, this is not going in the direction that is helpful for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm getting really like upset right now. I need to take a break. Or, oh, I feel like tense right now, or I'm noticing that you're tense. Is there something that I said that is creating that for you? Like, can I, you know, say it differently? Because I feel like maybe there's a misunderstanding right now, right? We can hit pause at any moment. But instead we feel like we are helpless, like, oh my gosh, I'm like at the control or the will of my emotions and how I react. It's like, no. That's why we go back to pause, and none of that happens.
Yeah.
Right? We get to fight better every time, because I believe that conflict is inevitable in your relationship, but arguing is optional. So can you choose to not make it an option? Can you choose to divert yourselves to having a better conversation? Okay, so acknowledge your part in this and that you play an active role in how things turn out, right? You may not be able to control what your partner does, but you can control what you do. You don't have to respond if you feel like they're crossing your boundaries by calling names or yelling or, you know, breaking any of the healthy communication rules that you've established. You get to be like, okay, I don't think we're going to get anywhere good right now because we both need to settle down. So like, let's call a timeout and reconvene when we both feel calmer, maybe like tomorrow or later tonight after the kids are in bed or whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So we need to be aware of our impact on our partner. C is collaboration. Okay. We need to start looking at the problem as the problem and not our partner. Oftentimes we tie the problem to our partner and be like, you did this. This is why I'm mad. It's like, no, this happened and that's why I'm mad. Right?
Yep.
This part didn't meet my expectations or what I want from you, or I felt this way because this happened, not you are evil because you did this. And so I'm so mad at you and I need to whatever. I need to lash out. Okay. Instead, be like, okay, that didn't work for us. Let's talk about why and what we can do going forward. What was your experience like? What was my experience like? Let's figure out a way so that we can create a win-win solution and come together as partners through collaboration, right? We're not competing, okay? C does not stand for competition.
Yeah.
If you're finding yourselves in arguments that go nowhere and you feel like your relationship is heading downhill because you don't know how to communicate with each other, you're likely using competition over collaboration. So making that one shift can make things so much better for you too. Okay. You're not in it to win it. You're in it to win it together. Right.
You're
and
a
that's
team.
the key difference. Yeah.
Yep.
You're a team. And then last is E for embrace. How many times have you had an argument with your spouse and there's like that awkward moment afterwards, however long that takes, whether it's like half a day, an hour, 2 hours, a day, 2 days, where you both feel kind of tender and hurt, right? You're like, oh, and you feel like you kind of have to like dip your toe in the water to see like, are we okay, Nick? Like,
yeah.
What if I do something nice for you? Are you going to receive it? Are you going to give me the cold
Yeah.
shoulder?
Yeah.
Or like, if I crack a joke, are you going to laugh? Right?
Yep.
There's that awkward moment where you're not feeling normal yet. If you choose to close out the process through embrace, and that could be in physical, mental, emotional, whatever, you're going to be able to get back into normalcy as a stronger couple so much faster. Yep. So for my husband and I, we like to debrief and be like, oh my gosh, we did that so much faster. Or, hey, I didn't break down and cry. I didn't feel like I had to leave the conversation because I was so like offended.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't blame you. Or, whatever is it we did right, really celebrating those small wins. And then we high five each other and then we hug and then we're back to normal again.
Yep.
So that piece is like so crucial. If you just leave it with like both of you guys having your tail tucked between your legs, you're missing out on something that could be really great to close out the process and really like let it be symbolic of your relationship growth.
Yep.
So that's the peace method.
I feel like I'm just getting free marriage counseling over here. There are just so many things that I we've learned, and we're still not perfect by any means, but you're just talking. No, I'm like, she's like talking to me right now. My husband's one of those people though, always has been since we met, where if we get in a disagreement or an argument or whatever it is, literally 30 seconds later, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And if I'm still over here like stewing and whatever just happened, I'm like, why are you being nice to me right now? Why are you doing this? Like, how are you over it already? Mm-hmm. I'm not. So, and that's something that like I absolutely love about him, is that it's just like, boom, that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
We're moving on. And it's nothing that he will ever come back to. Like once he's turned that page and he's moved on. And I'm like, I don't know where you got that from, but I wish I had that, like that switch. So I was just like, okay, everything's good.
And that's okay, right?
So,
and maybe it could be the way you're sharing it. Like maybe there's still something underneath that you weren't able to share and like get off your chest. Or maybe it's something that you need him to say or do to really let you release it all. Or maybe you just need to get off that high of the emotions, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Where you just need to let things level out and you guys just have different timelines. That's okay. It sounds like he's kind of accepted that that's how you are. And so maybe it's just like, yeah, thank you for wanting to do that. I just need a moment. I'll come back to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and just because you do like have arguments or have fights, like, no, if you didn't do that, I feel like in a marriage, you would like, you probably don't see eye to eye on every single thing you do. And I'm sure,
and if you don't argue, that's also a problem, right? Because I know a lot of couples like try and keep the peace, which I'm so against, because if you're not having any sort of conflict, like it's okay if you don't argue.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
argue with my husband, right? But if you don't have any conflict, then that means there is a lack of transparency and vulnerability in your relationship. So I wouldn't use it as like, a badge of honor. Like,
No,
we
for
don't have
sure
any
not.
disagreements in our
No.
marriage. Like, so how honest are you being with yourselves? Are you just letting everything just sink in and you're burying it because you don't want to deal with it, or what? Okay. Because the more you're able to be honest about what you are needing, what you are feeling. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, that was really petty and I'm on my period and like, I really don't need to bring this up because there's nothing deeper than what just happened, right? I'm just irritable and that's it. Fine. But the things that are repetitive and you're like this is coming up again. But I don't want to rock the boat. We're doing okay. I don't want to like change things. I don't want to mess up our dynamic. You are actually limiting the potential growth in your relationship when you don't bring it up. Okay. And if you're afraid of what might happen, then work on your communication skills. Work with me. Let's figure out how you can bring it up in a way where it's relationship building rather than, oh my gosh, I'm about to like just start World War III here with him.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. Like, not everything has to be a heavy conversation. And even in those heavy conversations, there's a way where you can navigate it, where you don't trigger them as much or you don't trigger them at all because you are so in tune with, how can I say this kindly? How can I learn how he communicates so that we can communicate together as partners? Because no matter how good of a communicator you are, with different people, you're going to have different outcomes. And we have to learn to attune to each person we're speaking with, right? Just think about your kids. How I speak to my daughter is not how I speak to my son.
Yeah, for sure.
And vice versa. We're just all individuals and we need to be catered to because we all have different sensitivities and patterns and triggers and all of that. And so you get to learn all that. That's how, like, it literally is called growing together for a reason. Okay. Like, you're doing it, like, it's not a destination, right? Like, we're just constantly improving ourselves and learning more about each other as we're learning more about ourselves. And it's just a continuous journey. Which is why it's so important for the third piece. So there was, loving yourself most, taking care of yourself. There's communication, and then there's partnership. Okay. It is really, really easy to just drop the partnership piece and just become co-parenting roommates because there's so much to do all the time. And it seems like you don't have any time or energy left for the marriage. And so then it becomes more like business partner relationship rather than a romantic relationship on top of also raising kids, on top of also being roommates. Your marriage is literally the foundation of your family. You decided to have kids because you believed in your marriage and the longevity of it. And your marriage is not like one of those friendships, which I call low maintenance friendships, where you're like, oh, we can go without talking for months. And like, as soon as we talk again, as soon as we see each other again, we're going to pick up where we left off.
Yep.
It's not like that. Okay. Why? Because there's a lot more pressure and expectations tied to the relationship because you're also sharing the role of housemate and parent. So you're co-parenting together, which involves a lot of decision making. You're also roommates, housemates, which also involves a lot of decision making, finances, and like just so much surrounds this relationship on top of the friendship that you two have. And so you need to continue to nurture it every step of the way. Now, you might not have the luxury of being able to go away with each other as much as you want like before, or have those like daily or weekly dates like you did before, but you still have to find a way to prioritize it. Not let's look at our schedule and let's see where we can fit each other in. It's more, let's create our schedule, plop that in first outside of work and, necessities, and then fill in the other stuff, right? So if your kid had a doctor's appointment or soccer practice or whatever, you'd be like, you would protect that time. You're like, sorry, we can't make it because we have this to do.
Yep.
I want you to do the same thing with the time that you connect with your spouse. Put it on your calendar, whether that's going on dates, whether that's having sex, like whatever you feel like you need to protect and get in the habit of, no, this is a necessity for our relationship. And I'm prioritizing it, not, oh man, yeah, okay, Tuesday's not going to work because and then Wednesday we have to like go here and like, okay, If we keep doing that, you're not going to have time until the kids move out.
Yeah.
And at that point, right? At that point, will you even have a relationship that you want anymore? Because you're going to start growing in different directions. And the buffers, AKA your kids, aren't going to be there. And you're going to be like, what do we talk about? What do we do? I don't know how to be around you because I don't have something distracting me from interacting with you. And now we're just here. Like, ooh, this feels sticky. I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
And then they get divorced, or they just decide to just live parallel lives but still staying married, right? Because if you wait to nurture your marriage, you're like, oh, the babies are like so busy, whatever. Baby season's really busy. Okay, I get that. And you're like, oh, when they get more independent, then we will, dedicate more time and energy to our marriage. Okay, I get that too. But you're going to continuously come up with excuses. And tomorrow is never going to come. Instead, you're going to fill that void of time that once was filled with breastfeeding, changing diapers, nap time, with social activities for you, your kids, extracurriculars like, soccer, football, cheerleading, dance, birthday parties. Stuff is going to fill that space. Unless you're like, no. It is a baseline requirement for us to connect once a week, twice a week, however often.
Yep.
That's what it means to prioritize a relationship. Like, if other people can see from your behaviors that your marriage is your priority, then you're doing it well. But if other people wouldn't agree with you based on your decisions, then there's some reconfiguring that needs to happen. Because when we feel connected with our spouse, guess what gets to be easier?
Yep. Your marriage is going to be so much easier. Parenting kids is going to be easier.
Communication gets easier. Because when you feel connected, then you're going to lean on your communication tools. When you feel connected, you are more understanding, more willing to hear them out, more kind, more willing to be collaborators. But when you're not feeling connected, you're like, I have no interest or motivation to see your side. You are stuck in me, victim mentality mode, feeling like you're the enemy and we are competitors. So all of this ties in together, right? When we take care of ourselves, we want to connect with our spouse more. When we're connected with our spouse, communication becomes easier. And when we can communicate, we can feel like we can take anything on.
Yep. That's so important.
So that's how you childproof your marriage.
I love it. It was amazing. I think that especially like scheduling time. I don't know if anyone knows Kelly Learden, but she's Walk Like Warriors. And that's one of her things. She calls it a big rock. You have to schedule your big rocks first. And then everything else is the sand or the filler that goes around those rocks. But those big rocks are first. It's your marriage, it's your family, it's those things that need to be priority, and they go into your calendar first, and then everything else fills those gaps and fills that space in. So that truly, Michelle, I feel like we could talk for hours. I loved everything you've had to say. I think that's so important for so many people to hear. And if you could share how people can, I know you have your podcast, so share about your podcast and how people can get in touch with you, because her podcast is amazing. Like, I can just listen to it on repeat.
Oh, yeah. So my podcast is called the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'd love to have you over there and check it out and to connect with you. And I'm also on Instagram and Threads under Michelle Purta Coaching. I will admit that I am enjoying Threads a lot more. So if you're on there, give me a follow, say hi. And yeah, I would love to connect with you. If something I said here resonated with you, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you really connected with, what you are wanting support with, so I can give you some support there. And thank you so much, Becca, for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, of course. So if you're going through any of these things, just know you're not alone. And Michelle is such an amazing person just to talk to even. So go check her out. Thanks again so much for coming. And we will be back next week. Nothing is TMI when it comes to motherhood, and common doesn't necessarily mean normal. Always trust your gut and never stop advocating for the care you deserve. If you enjoyed this podcast, help it reach more mamas like you by subscribing and leaving a review on your preferred listening platform. Keep in touch with me on Instagram by following Pelvic Floor Mama. See you next time.